I study anthropology and I'm in my third year, but I wanted to document a Christmas vacation I had in Norway. I was spending winter vacation with my grandmother and one of my brothers, Seb, in a small town up north. My family all live scattered around the world, so seeing anyone was very rare. One day, while Seb and I were walking around town, Seb had told me about people in a nearby village talking about fairy creatures called Luzafa. I remembered that name, meaning light elves. Of course, it was rather funny, since Christmas was only days away. Seb teased me. Say, I remember you used to be all about magical creatures as a kid and would try to find them in the woods whenever we went to the park back in the States. Yeah, I remember. I tried to shrug it off. I admitted. I kind of miss those days when we were all together. I miss exploring. I miss the family. Seb had an arm around my shoulder. I know, maybe we'll find one of those fairies around here, he smirked, with that cocky smile I had grown all too accustomed to. I would have suggested that Seb and I would try to speak with the locals about the fairy creatures, but my grandmother needed us to help her make Christmas dinner. After hours of ripping up bread to small pieces and peeling potatoes, I had grown tired and went to bed to take a nap. I woke up in the middle of the night. Grandmother was asleep in a room with her flop ball of a Newfoundland and Seb was in the kitchen, nursing a glass of something I can only assume was beer. Seb looked visibly uneasy, his hand trembling and shaking. I asked him, Seb, are you okay? He seemed to jolt as I asked him, yeah, I'm alright. You want a late night snack, buddy? It was just frightening to see my older brother so shaken. I went to the fridge and grabbed myself a tuna sandwich as I said, house is pretty cold. You wanna come grab some firewood? What caught me off guard was when Seb seemed to insist, no, we shouldn't go outside so late, but I, I, I can bring some blankets and we can just hang out here for the night. I was confused and worried. I didn't know what was up with Seb. I asked, please tell me, Seb, why do you look so shook? Did something happen while you were out? Seb pulled me into a tight hug and shakingly said, don't go. He broke into soft sobbing. I tried to comfort him, but he was shaking all over. We ended up sitting in the living room, having snacks with so much sugar that my grandmother would beat my face with my toothbrush. When Seb fell asleep in his cocoon of blankets, I got up and got my coat on. The fire was close to dying out and getting firewood wouldn't be far at all. A stack of logs was around the backyard. I went outside in my thickest coat and a pair of rubber boots and walked to the backyard, getting a log or two. I was only interrupted by a distant shrieking I couldn't make out clearly at first. It sounded like Civicum, Civicum, Thessalum Shaka, and I followed the sound against my better judgment. I thought it might have been someone in trouble. A part of me doesn't regret following the screams, but one part of me wishes I had just gone back to bed. A person was in the woods, close to the house. They were tall and emitted a dim glow. Their eyes were glowed in dark and observed while hiding behind the trunk of a tree. At the tall person's feet was a body ripped to shreds. I tried not to gasp. I wondered if this thing killed the dead person on the ground. The tall being, it kept crying out the same things with a rage in their voice that shook me to the core. I tried to leave the scene, but the crunching of the leaves gave me away. The beam snapping its neck towards my direction and began to approach me while belting out a loud scream that hurt my eardrums so much that I thought I was deaf. Its presence was growing closer as I remembered feeling my back tense up in anticipation. When it got close, I sprinted away, hearing the tall creature let out another shrill cry, but I didn't look back. I kept running, but then, from the corner of my eye, its cold hand claws across the face, leaving 3 scars. Its face was beautiful, terrible, and terrifying. Eyes that saw into your soul, and almost skeleton in shape. I had to admit, I cried and maybe pissed my pants before I tried running again as fast as my legs could carry me. That thing, it was too quick. It kept pulling my leg back and pushed me to the ground, trying to claw at me, but I managed to push it off. It didn't give up, chasing me, and I eventually got back into my house and hid in my room, watching the window as I hid in my blankets and shit. I could sleep that night, especially when I saw its glowing eyes trying to find me as it circles around the house. Heard it mutter something as it went around. By a blink of an eye, it vanished, with the night wind, leaves fluttering by. I kept seeing its face over and over that night, and I have been having nightmares about it ever since. When Christmas Day arrived, my grandmother noticed the scars on my face. She was worried and asked, "My boy, what happened? Did something hurt you last night?" I tried to lie so she wouldn't be worried too much. "Just the neighbor's cat." I tried to pet them, but the damn cat got mad for some reason. My grandma sighed. "Oh honey, let me take care of it later. Have some leftovers and open your present." She ruffled my hair. Seb didn't look so pleased with me. He then said you could have gotten killed. I whispered back, "I was only getting firewood. How was I supposed to know?" Asking him, a bit outraged that my brother would get mad at me for going out to the backyard. He then sighed just like Grandma. "I'm sorry. I know you couldn't have known what was out there if I didn't tell you." I then said, "What are they, Seb?" "That thing in the woods." "I have no idea, Bob. All I know is that I'm not ever going into the forest at night. Never, ever again." I could be certain both of us would make that same promise. I had went back to my dorm in university back at the United States in January, and I had contacted a colleague who studied languages. Over the phone, I told her the phrase I heard that night in Norway, and she said it's Old Norse. It means betrayers, betrayers, the forests stolen by thieves. So whatever that creature was, most likely the Lujosapha said the forests were stolen. By whom? Was it the patch of wood in that town? I didn't know. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know. I did not know. I wanted to know. I wanted to find out. Ever since that night, I have been hearing distant wailing and strange dim lights in every forest I see at night. I kind of understand now. My advice to anyone reading this: do not go to the forests at night, and do not follow any loud cries or strange lights in the trees. We stole their forest, and now they want it back, or we pay the price. Now that I'm fully recovered, Almost, I'm back to bring you more horror and more nightmares with pleasure. And please support the writer of this amazing story and also the person that did the amazing art and the website that I used the following images. And please support the channel by subscribing and turning the notification bell on. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and have a great night. This is Goodbye by Dr. Grim.